doing something a little different today. You know what I'm doing today is I'm actually jumping on doing a show completely unpromoted, unannounced, just to compare numbers and see how many people can find us when we are completely random. In other words, does it spit out to you? Do the same number of people connect? Do you find us when you're not looking for us? Just a little test run here because we're on an odd schedule today. I've got Mastodons basketball coming up this afternoon at 5 o'clock. It's part of a doubleheader out at the Coliseum, and so I'm going to be tied up and at 6 o'clock, which is when we normally would do this. So I'm giving something special a try. Hey, we appreciate those of you that have found us. Actually, quite a few already have. And if you're watching, love to hear from you. You can leave your comments. Make sure you do click the subscribe. Also, make sure you like the video. You can share the video. We're going to talk all things Fort Wayne and Indiana sports here on the Sports Rush. That's what we do. We used to do it on the radio every day. No more radio shows. So this is our outlet to express our feelings, our thoughts on what's happening in the world of sports here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I am Brett Rump. Adam Lundy's not on today because I didn't want to throw a last minute request to him and say, hey, you know what? I decided to jump on and do a show on Sunday morning because that's really what happened. I just decided it's a good time to do a show, so I'm going to do a show. I'm going to do a quick one. It's not going to be a real long show today, but I do hope those of you that are with us, stick with us because we got a lot to cover. We've got to talk about Indiana, basketball, football, Heisman-Doza. We'll talk about that. We also have to talk about the Purdue Boilermakers, Notre Dame getting the snub. Yes, it's a snub because we haven't had a chance to really dive into it with Notre Dame. Talked about it a little bit, but not real deep diving. But let's talk also about what happened at Michigan. Sherrone Moore, the head coach, fired with cause, and the whole situation is just a total dumpster fire at Michigan. How does the athletic director still have a job? I mean, scandal after scandal after scandal. Juwan Howard, and then you had, Juwan Howard, and then you had Connor Stallions, and then you had the whole situation with Harbaugh and what was going on with the football program. Then you have Sherrone Moore. What is going on at Michigan, and how does Ward Manuel still have a job? I mean, this has gone on a ridiculous amount of time. I mean, we learned that there's multiple investigations. Everybody on campus seemed to know that this guy was hooking up with his secretary, and the athletic director could actually commission an investigation, whether it's internal or external, and not find the evidence. Everybody knew. They weren't even investigating, and they knew. That's the reports. That's what we're hearing. And so this is a complete failure by an athletic department and an athletic director, and there is no way that athletic director still have the job. The interesting thing is this young lady who broke the same company policy that Sherrone Moore broke is also still employed. Um, and here's the thing that bothers me with her. I know there's victims in situations like this, but if she was truly a victim, they came to her in multiple investigations and confronted her and asked about an improper relationship with Coach Moore, and she denied it ever happened. So, and did it multiple times. And I'm thinking, if you're a victim here and they come to you and ask you point blank, uh, you've got to be able to share your thoughts. She was probably worried about her job because ultimately she lost her job, which is the reason that she then came forward and changed her story. But no, I think this is one of those things where it's just as much on the athletic director as it is anyone else in this situation. And the fact that he still has a job is beyond comprehension. I mean, that athletic department, especially the high profile sports, when you look at basketball and football, it's a mess at Michigan. Total mess, an embarrassment to the alumni, to the boosters, to the organizations and programs themselves. And it all falls on one person's lap, and somehow that person survives all of these situations. It just beyond comprehension to me why or for what reason Ward Manuel still has a job as the athletic director at the University of Michigan. All right, once again, love to have you on board. Love to get your comments, anything you've got to ask about Indiana or Fort Wayne sports. Love to hear about it. We had high school basketball on Friday night. Impressive win for Snyder. College basketball today out at the Coliseum. It's a doubleheader, and the women will be playing Northern Illinois to start the doubleheader, and then the men have a big Horizon League game. They're taking on a team that started 2-0 in the conference. Now, I know Detroit Mercy's had some bad years, but this team's 2-0. And right now, if you look at the standings, they're tied for first place in the Horizon League. So this is a big one at the Coliseum today for the men. 5 o'clock tip, and you can get 2 for 1 because you can come and watch the women at 2 and the men at 5 o'clock as the Dons take over the Memorial Coliseum on this Sunday afternoon. All right, let's talk about Indiana. Last night, the Heisman Trophy was awarded. And as expected, it goes to Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. Now, let me say this. Mendoza's a great player and's done remarkable things. This was not a great year for the Heisman Trophy for individual performances in college football. It just wasn't. I mean, I've seen arguments Diego Pavia might have had statistically the best year. Fernando Mendoza might have been the best leader and made the biggest plays at the most significant times to help his team to a number 1 ranking and a number 1 overall seed in the college football playoffs. I'm not sure what the voters are voting for. Um, you could say just the best football player might have been Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame. I mean, he was unbelievable as a running back. But Fernando Mendoza won this award because in the biggest moments, in the biggest games, when he had the most eyeballs watching him, he delivered huge plays. He did it against Oregon, he did it against Penn State, and he delivered against Ohio State. I mean that I think the one that sealed the deal was the third down throw on the sideline fade that he completed to Charlie Becker in the Big Ten championship game. That unbelievable throw that had to have NFL scouts and executives drooling that he can make that throw in that situation at that time. That was a clincher right there. I mean, I think he already was leading the Heisman voting, and he probably would have won anyway, but there was no way anyone was beating him once he completed that pass to Becker. Huge, huge play. I thought his speech was fine. It's exactly what you would expect from Fernando Mendoza, making sure that everyone got thanked and got recognized and got mentioned. Um, he didn't spend quite as much time on his journey as he did those that led him on his journey. And that pretty much is Fernando Mendoza. One of the most touching moments, as far as seeing the videos that have been posted on social media, for me, has been how his teammates reacted to him winning the award. That says everything to me. I mean, this shows that it is a person who is completely selfless, that the teammates love him. They love the kind of leadership he provides. They respect the hell out of him because if you watched his teammates, they were more excited than his family, than the coaches. I mean, they just let loose. They were thrilled for him. Now, it's also something about the program because now Indiana can claim they do have a Heisman Trophy winner in their history. They had never had one before, but they'd never really, well, you could debate Anthony Thompson, whether or not he deserved to have a Heisman Trophy. But this was one of those years where Fernando Mendoza would have been caught in the mix of 4 or 5 quarterbacks. And this year, there just wasn't that guy who stood out. Diego Pavia may have been the best one among the group, and but he was not. I mean, his team wasn't as good. And I think part of this is a team award. I mean, I think Fernando Mendoza got it exactly right when he said a lot of this is because of my team. And it is, because I think you always go to these types of awards with the guys that had the greatest impact on winning. And teams that win often have more individual awards. And let that be a lesson to young players. Um this world is about making others better so that it lifts you up. It is not about going out and being the star of the show in a very bad play. It is not about being the biggest fish in a really small pond. It is about lifting others up, making them better. And by them being better, it makes you better. And that's what Fernando Mendoza has done. I mean, he hasn't had to throw the ball as much as some other quarterbacks, and that might have hurt him statistically because Indiana did just pound the ball on the ground against two or three of their opponents this year. And so sometimes it's hard, but I mean, he threw for what, almost half the yards. It's like 40% less yards than Joe Burrow. And so when Joe Burrow was at LSU, so statistically, it looks like a down year. But you cannot argue against the success of Indiana, what Fernando Mendoza has meant to that Indiana football team, and just how much his teammates love and respect the guy. Indiana, of course, prepping. They're going to be taking on Alabama or Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl. And still some games to be played in the opening round while Indiana gets a bye. It's a long layoff for the Hoosiers, and I don't know. I'm not a big fan of how long this layoff is. But next week, you're going to have Oklahoma and Alabama, and then the winner of that is going to go on to take on Indiana out in Pasadena. That will then put you into the college football semifinals if you can get that victory. But anyway, let's talk Indiana basketball. Last night, Indiana basketball was exactly what they needed to be for about 30 minutes out of the 40. I mean, they were disciplined, took care of the basketball, took good shots, and then all of a sudden could not rebound. Couldn't defend, couldn't rebound. And the rebounding is a big concern. I mean, that's one of the tougher things to fix. I mean, you could tell guys they got to box out, but if they're not good rebounders, they're not good at boxing out, and they're not strong enough to be able to compete against bigger players around the basket, it's going to be a season long problem for Indiana. Because sometimes at this time of year, when problems are exposed, other teams are going to start taking advantage. And don't think for a moment that every Indiana opponent in the Big Ten is now putting into their scouting notes attack the glass when you play the Indiana Hoosiers, because they looked weak. They looked weak. Bailey just could not get it done. He's not big enough, physical enough, strong enough. I mean, you had multiple guys in there trying to get a rebound. I mean, clearly, um, Tucker DeVries is not going to be a big time rebounder. And I mean, who do they count on? They don't have that Thomas Bryant type, the big, strong guy that can go in and grab a board. Kentucky just absolutely blitzed them on the glass. And they didn't even have to send three guys to do it. They were sending one or two guys, and they were winning the battles for the basketball. That is a real problem for the Indiana Hoosiers, one that they're going to have to address, try to cover up as much as possible, because they didn't cover it up at all last night against Kentucky, and it cost them the basketball game. Kentucky then took over, got momentum. Indiana couldn't get stops because they couldn't get rebounds, and then Kentucky ended up just blitzing Indiana over the last 8 to 10 minutes of that basketball game. Once the crowd got into it, once Kentucky found their energy, it was lights out for the Indiana Hoosiers last night. Purdue, they get beat and get beat bad by Iowa State last weekend. But they have responded as you would hope a team with some pride and some talent would respond. Big dominant win over Penn State. Big dominant win or over was it Minnesota? Big dominant win yesterday, and the Purdue Boilermakers are back to what we expected. I mean, they beat a Marquette team that is not the typical Marquette team. I know they're not nearly the talented group that it was a annual top 10 team, but that's it still was how well did Purdue play against said opponent? Doesn't matter who the opponent is, and they played really good on their Wednesday night game. They play was it Wednesday night, and they played really good last night. So or yesterday. And so Purdue bounces back nicely and gets the win over Marquette. Hate these games on Peacock. I bought Peacock last year because they gave me a deal for a year at like $20. It ran out. I didn't know it ran out. Apparently, December 1st, it ran out. And because I went to watch Purdue, couldn't watch it because it was a Peacock game. Well, that's where it's nice knowing that you've always got Purdue basketball on 1380 The Fan, and you've got IU basketball 92.3 FM because any games on Peacock, I'm not going to be watching. Um, all right. Give us your thoughts. Love to hear from you. If you tweet us, you can or post on Twitter or X. You can also add your comments on Facebook. You can add comments on YouTube. Remember, if you go to YouTube, it certainly helps our algorithm. We'd love to have you as a subscriber to our YouTube channel. That way, when I do these surprise videos, because today's a total surprise, didn't announce it, didn't promote it, never even mentioned that I was going to be going live. But when I do them, then you'll be one of the first that becomes aware of it if you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And so we'd really appreciate that. All right, so what's coming up today? I hope I see you at the Coliseum. Because the Mastodons are going to be playing Detroit Mercy. Now, let's talk a little bit about this game because this is a very important game in the Horizon League. Mastodons are 1-1. They got a chance to have a winning record going into the little bit of a break over Christmas because once they come back from Christmas break, it is nothing but conference. Starts December 29th at Milwaukee. You do not want to be 1-2 knowing your next game is on the road at the preseason pick to win the league. And so for the Mastodons, they that it's overused. I don't want to say it's a must win. It's an important win. It's a very important win. Every game is an important win because they all add up to where you finish in the standings and where you're seated for the postseason tournament, who you're going to face in the postseason tournament. So every game's important. But certainly there's a huge difference between being 2-1, 1-2. And especially when you're going to go on a little bit of a break, you feel better about yourselves. And the Mastodons have won a couple of games in a row after beating Northern Kentucky and then coming back and beating Eastern Michigan. And both those were good wins. Northern Kentucky, they overcame a halftime deficit of 15 points and ended up winning that game 79-77. And then against Eastern Michigan, pretty dominant. I mean, really, they were up 20, what was it, 25 points, 26 points, whatever they were. It ended up getting a little closer. Of course, Eastern Michigan's a good enough basketball team. They've beaten teams like Oakland. I know they beat two Horizon League teams. And in fact, I think Eastern Michigan might have beat Detroit Mercy. And um, Mastodons get a win against Eastern Michigan, really solid win. And you've got a guy on the Mastodons who's leading the country in field goals. CJ Hadnot, nation's leader in number of field goals made this year. Hadnot has had an unbelievable season. He has scored 33, 26, and 28 over his last three games. I mean, he's a 3-year guy in the program. He's a guy that hasn't transferred. He hasn't followed the trend and decided to go and seek bigger money. No, he's stuck with a program where he's a great fit. Now he's got a significant role. And you know what he did? He actually worked to perfect his abilities in that role. And you've got to call out players like this. He knew the system. He knew what role he was going to play in that system because he's been in it for a couple of years. And he realized, number one, he was going to have to attack on the dribble. So, working on his ball handling, working on his physical strength. He built up his shoulders, he built up his upper body strength. Why? So he could finish at the rim because he knew that was going to be part of his role. He was going to assume a little bit of what Jalen Jackson did for the Mastodons last year and what Bryson Scott has done and John Conchar has done. And so he worked his tail off, spent a lot of time in the weight room. He added 10 to 15 pounds of muscle, most of it in the upper body. So he's more physically stronger. And there's no question that some of the buckets he's getting at the basket, he would not have scored in his first 2 years wearing a Mastodons uniform. The difference is that he has prepared for this role and what type of shots and what type of contributions he will make. And he has delivered now remarkably well. Like I said, 26, 28, and 33 over the last 3 games. But a lot of it, it isn't just, wow, CJ's really hitting shots. No, it's CJ's worked for 7 months to do what he's doing now on the basketball court. I wish more players would do that. The problem is they transfer, they take the money, then they don't really know what their role is going to be. They don't have as much off-season work because they're busy negotiating deals and transferring and up and moving from one place to another. CJ Hadnot was able to start on this season the day that last season ended. He knew what his role was going to be. As soon as he knew that Jalen Jackson was not coming back, he knew that was going to be his spot and that he was going to have to deliver. And to do that, he was going to have to get bigger, stronger, and be able to handle the basketball in traffic. He has done all three. And a big congrats to CJ because he's getting everything he has worked for, what he has earned. As Kurt Signetti says, you earn everything you get in sports, and CJ Hadnot has earned it. The Mastodons are still a work in progress, too. I mean, that's the fun thing about watching this team. It's still growing and developing. Mikhail Stevenson is still trying to figure out what his role is. He's not the star. He's not the guy who, can just attack and go get buckets. But he's a guy that if he allows the offense to come to him, he can be highly productive, highly productive. And if he, works on his passing and tries to figure out how do I make teammates better, because ultimately making my teammates better will also make me better, because when you give to teammates, teammates give back to you, and it's a nice give and take. And so he's still trying to learn his exact role. He's a great talent. I mean, the guy is just unbelievably athletic. He can fly around. But number one, you can't miss a dunk. Okay, if you're going to go up and try to show off for the crowd, you cannot miss that dunk. Number one, it's got to score. It's got to be thrown down. I don't care about the highlight. I don't care about the big reach and the throw down over a player. That doesn't matter to me. What matters is it's 2 points and go get them. Number two, understand that there's better players out there. No matter how good you become, you've always got to look at your teammates as being better. Why? Because when they get open, that's the pass. That's the right play. And I think once everything kind of gets in sync and he sees it come together, and he's been working toward it, I think this can be a really, really explosive offense because you've got a lot of talented offensive players. Ibrahim Kaba can really shoot it, and he's 6'9", 215 pounds. He can play the perimeter. He could play around the basket. I'd like to see Kaba become more dominant on the offensive glass because I think that's a role that he could really play well. Right now, it's Darius Duffy, and he's basically a one-man island where he's the only guy going in for the rebounds, and he's been averaging about 3 offensive rebounds a game, which is pretty good, but he doesn't have any help. And the Dons are one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the entire country. I mean, they're right near the very bottom of all NCAA Division I teams. Why? They don't have enough guys going after it. I mean, you've got to have, in today's game, you got to have at least 2 guys really getting after it on the offensive glass. Number one, it slows teams down from getting the break against you. When you give them a free start by not having guys at the basket, they're tearing down the floor and they're getting into their half court offense really quickly. when they have pressure to be able to rebound and they don't get a rebound cleanly because the ball's being tipped around, that makes you better defensively in transition. And so one way to slow a team down, it's not drop back. It's not bring three guards back into the other team's half court because, it's still going to be 4-on-3 or 5-on-4. What it is you contest your offensive rebounding. You go after your offensive glass. You slow teams down that way because now they got to put three guys in or four guys in to go get the rebound, and it's a lonely game with one guy heading the other way. To me, that's where it starts. Transition defense starts with good offensive rebounding. Period. All right, so what else have we got going on today? Oh, we got to talk about the Colts. Phillip Rivers is the quarterback. I feel like I've been put in a time machine and taken back to 2019. Phillip Rivers, 44 years old, a grandpa. He might have a few extra pounds since last time we saw him, but Phillip Rivers is going to start today. That's the story. Colts have signed him, put him on the 53 man, and the only reason to do that is to put him out there and have him start the game. Now, I heard he's looked pretty good in practice, but he's not going to be able to air it out deep, and that's been a weapon for the Colts on the outside with Alec Pierce. But what do you expect? The Colts are, it doesn't matter who the quarterback would be today. This is going to be a challenging game regardless. You're going to Seattle, who's competing for the NFC West. You've got that incredibly loud stadium, which means being able to hear the counts. And it's going to even be more difficult when everybody on the team has to hear a different voice and pick it out of the crowd, one they're not used to. So anyway, just realized something on my lips. Colts and Seahawks, I don't see a chance the Colts win today, but I hope that Phillip Rivers survives and plays at least well to give the Colts a chance over the next 3 games. If they win today, man, that's a bonus. That'd be unbelievable to go out to Seattle and get a win. Long road trip, tough place to play. Quarterback that just came into town 3 or 4 days ago. It'd be unbelievable to get a win in Seattle. Just don't see it happening. All right, hope to see you out at the Coliseum. If I do run into you, give me a wave, a holler, a shout, a high five, whatever happens. Hope you're out there at the Coliseum. Also, hope that at this point you have subscribed, you have liked. Give us one of those thumbs up, please. And you have shared this channel. Very important. I'll try to get some shorts posted later, but big thanks to all of you that tuned in today. And we'll talk to you again soon. Just keep your eye on this channel. Subscribe. Oh, and if you click the bell, you'll even get alerts. Have yourself a great Sunday.